Hello, everyone. It is August 11, 2022, and you're watching the Awesome 10X Philippine Market Update. Let us begin. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to find some news. It is a great day in the Philippine market. Okay. So let's go to the Philippine market. Okay. You've got the PSEI 6,656.85. You've got the market actually trading with larger than normal volume, 5,657,000,000 value turnover, 140 advancers, 47 decliners. A lot of it has been a lot of bargain hunting, and you can see that this was optimism after yesterday's inflation rate in USA coming down at 8.5%. You're also seeing a slew of corporate earnings results in the Philippines showing a strong recovery, like Cebu Pacific. We will read up on that. But let's take a look on your index movers. You're seeing a whole green set here with only Monde Nissin down a little, which is just unchanged, which is technically saying that all 30 stocks in your index is up. SM is 843.5, up 4%. Your Ayala Land is up 6%, back to 28 peso. Your SM Prime is 38.45, up 2%. Your BDO is up 3%, you're about 116. ICT up 3%, 184. Aboitiz Equity Ventures up 4%, 59.65. Jollibee is up 6%, 230.6. You've got PLDT up 2%, 18.18. Wilcon is up 7%, 30.45. JG Summit up 1.65% here at 55. Meralco is up 3% to 321. Ayala Corporation up 1.2%, 715. Globe is trading 4% up, 2,134. Robinson's Land up 7%, 18.94. Metrobank up 2%, 51. GT Capital back 4.8%, 489. Aboitiz Power up 3.5%, 32 flat. Converge is trading 3% up, 21. PPI up less than a percent, here about 95. Mega World is 2.42, up 5. AGI up 4%, 934. Ascent, it's up 1.5%, 8.5. URC slightly unchanged, 126. Semirara 1.6% up, 40 bucks. Lucian Group 882. Pure Gold nearing 34. San Miguel Corporation 103.5, MPI 373, Emperador 19, Monde 16. So very strong movements. You can see a 7% move almost in Ayala Land today. You've seen a 7% move additional for your Wilcon and a 7% move on Robinson's Land. A lot of gainers. You could see strong movers for today. Let's take a look at stats. Top gainers with the volume. All right. We are seeing Wilcon, 30 bucks. We saw the 1 billion profit reported by Wilcon and the market proceeded higher and higher. I would say, though, that some people might be taking profits on Wilcon here at 30 pesos as it is near the previous resistance. Let's take a look at other movers here. You're seeing Ayala Land recover, mean reversion towards 28. It has dropped as low as 24. And the market has been buying it back. Let's take a look. Oh, wait. Yes, okay. So let's take a look at some charts here. Let's just take a look at the index first, and then we proceed to some news. Okay. So how far has it gone, no? Ayala Land has rallied. Some mean reversion play, you can see that it has rallied from 23s towards 28. So now it's back near the previous resistance. So there is that downtrend here. We will need to find earnings results to prove that it is a possible reversal, if ever. So we'll see whether the earnings are, some companies have reported earnings. So we will be evaluating on the earnings numbers. Let's take a look first on the charts here. You've got Ayala Corp recovering from about 600s here towards the high at 717. However, we are seeing that previous downtrend as well. So a lot of these will be a measurement of earnings. We saw Metrobank good numbers, so we are seeing Metrobank get revalued. So we saw the 47s after the earnings results. It was very good. So people have bought it up and is now trading above 50. We see the resistance still here at 54, which is why a rising Metro Bank is obviously positive towards your GT Capital, which has also bottomed out here at 440, which is now 490. So a rising Metro Bank would mean maybe a rise in GT Capital holdings as well. So resistance is still 530. So you still got about another 5 to 10% rally possible towards GT Cap. You're seeing RLC today up a lot. RLC and Ayala Land have been rallying today. We are seeing quite a broad-based rally, as you can see. A lot of movers. Jollibee 230. Aslag rallied from breaking 180 to 189. You've got the Enel 728. In general, a lot of your SEC-B rallied, no, 4% here. Cebu Pacific now trading at 45. Let's go read through some of the numbers. Let's read this one. Okay. So I think I have it here. Eto. So let's read through the results. Okay, so kita naman, no? Kita ba? Pag shinare ko. Kita naman, naka-share screen tayo. Okay, so all right. So Cebu Air results. Revenues are jumping 337% from a year ago. So it just really proves that everyone is flying, which we can see naman anecdotally and also from results coming out all throughout all the airlines in the world. It was evident since June that a lot of people were flying. And so last 6 months ago, you can clearly see the Philippines have largely been seeing airplanes, your friends going out and abroad, diba? So with the restrictions of COVID gone, or less worldwide, easing of restrictions, you see people doing international flights. This was also evident with Visa's recent payments, showing a 50% growth in cross-border payment volume, which means maraming abroad nagsuswipe ng cards. Okay, Cebu Air here saw their revenue for the second quarter increase by 337% to 13.97 billion pesos from 3.2 billion in the same period in 2021 as it operated more flights and flew more passengers after travel restrictions eased. Revenue growth was driven primarily by strong recovery in passenger and ancillary business, which grew 644% and 572% year-on-year respectively. Similarly, the cargo business sustained its growth with a 15% increase to 1.7 billion versus last year on the back of higher cargo volumes. Sales load factor 77%. This is 21 points higher than last year's 56%. This improvement resulted from a network recovery driven by the domestic market, where passengers flown increased 562% year-on-year, while flights grew 350% year-on-year. So maganda, 77% occupied. CEB's international network also started to recover as travel requirements of other Southeast Asian countries like Singapore and Thailand eased. CEB expanded its network, resumed high flights towards Hanoi, Bali, and Taiwan in the second quarter. Total operating expenses totaled 16.8 billion. This is 86% higher year-on-year, despite 323% more flights. So they are saying that they were able to manage their operating expense despite 300% more flights. Fuel was the biggest contributor to expenses due to the steep hike in jet fuel prices. Nevertheless, net loss narrowed to 1.9 billion from 6.5 billion pesos last year. Positive EBITDA of 453 million was also recorded, a 121% jump from negative 2 billion peso last year. So we are seeing a 14 billion peso quarter result. Let's take a look on your 2019 levels here to see how much the company used to earn during the pre-pandemic scenarios. So let's go to Cebu Pacific Investor Relations or go to the annual report to see that. Okay. Here. You can also take a look at 2018, but basta take a look at prior earnings results to see how the company's revenues were during that time. So we'll see, no? Okay, so in 2018, prior to the pandemic, their total revenue was 74 billion, their EBITDA was 22 billion. You can see here that CEB flew a total of 20 million passengers in 2018. On average, it was 85% full, which means that CEB has a long way to go back to these 75 billion peso in revenues. You just got 13 billion now. It could be accelerating maybe 10, another additional 10 billion or 15 more billion. So from 13, 14, pwede siya mag-15, pwede siya mag-20 billion, pwede siya mag-25 billion, owing to more flights and more passenger sales load. You can see that SAB continues to fly to most destinations, operating the most number of routes and flights. This was as of end 2018. The company flew to 37 domestic destinations, 26 international destinations through 38 routes. So the more the world reopens, obviously they will open more international destinations, which will increase those revenues. Despite the high fuel prices, lagi naman mataas high fuel prices. So they will just really pass it on to the people. Now, core net income during that time was as high as 5.9 billion pesos despite a tough environment. So let's take a look at the 2018 levels of Cebu Pacific. No, so we have to assume that the pandemic will be able to be recovered. So in 2018, 2019, we can clearly see that CEB used to trade as high as these levels at about 80 to 90 pesos CEB. No, here as high as 80 to 90 pesos. So I'm not saying that we can clearly go up in a way towards 80, but every Juan flies. That's the term of Cebu Pacific. And it seems as if this whole area of consolidation has finally broken out to the upside based on those numbers. So we do have a buy rating on Cebu Pacific here at 40 to 45. We have been mentioning that there is a chance that the travel industry will recover this year. And chances are with that recovery, so would the pace of revenue, so would the pace of earnings. And you can see SEB flying back at least maybe here towards your 2020 errors of 70 area. Bahala na kung mag-80s or 90s, but it looks like the upside is larger than the downside. You could see your downside is just 39 or 40, whereas your upside is as high as 60, 70, 80, 90. Matataas. So we would give a buy rating on Cebu Pacific. Okay, the financial position obviously has deteriorated during the pandemic, but it looks to achieve a recovery by this year. Okay, so of course, JG Summit will benefit as Cebu Pacific recovers and improves their operating margins. Let's take a look what happens to JG Summit then. Let's see the JG Summit. Okay, JGS, of course, is the owner of Robinson's Land, Robinson's Retail, a lot of Robinson's Place, the malls. You've got a varied industry. You've got URC. Okay, so GGS with the recovery of Cebu Pacific is also likely to get a lot of buyers. So in 2019 areas, you've got JG Summit trading near 75. It has fallen all the way down towards 50. Right now, JG Summit is trading at 55. The question is, will JG Summit have a strong recovery going forward with the pace of inflation slowing down? So I actually think that the pace of inflation will stay very lofty. 8.5% inflation in America. They were happy only because it was less than what they expected it to be because it was 9.1% in the past. It doesn't mean that inflation is exactly gone. It will remain high, likely above 5%, above 7% for a year. But the point that we are talking about here is that inflation might be able to be controlled if we produce enough oil. Although that's really how it's done, diba? The only way for prices to go down is to have more supply. I actually don't think we have enough supply. It will take us about 3 years to be able to get all the energy supplies back after those SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserves, that America has been been releasing to stave off strong oil prices. So taking a look at oil itself, let's take a look at these levels. We think that crude oil here about 90s and 88s we were buying all the way to 80. Of course, if it goes down, it's now trading at 92. So we've been looking and monitoring obviously on oil prices, commodities, and even energy deficits. So I do believe that you will still stay between the 80s to basta above 70 yan, for the next year. So mataas pa rin tayo. We're not gonna go through these arenas of 70 below era of 2015 to 2020. So I don't think you will go there. You will just basically do what has happened during 2010 to 2014. Ito yung areas na yon. 2010 to 2014, you had about 90 to 110 areas. So chances are you're in this era, 70 to 120 eras. Actually, hindi nga bumaba ng 80s or 70s. So hindi lang talaga sa 88. So we do believe that with high oil prices, you will just get used to it. You will get used to 77 peso per liter on oil when you go to the gas station, or maybe it's about 74 pesos, but I don't think you'll see it at 50 peso per liter anytime soon. So inflation will still stay high. It's a matter of passing on the price towards the consumers. And that's what's evident in most of your restaurants. If you took a look at restaurants, like for instance, I took a look at your potato corner. Potato corner now, the mega fries is 100 pesos, or yeah, 120 pesos, I think. So there has been some price increases, and I would say that the market is obviously reopening and recovering. So you are seeing the following things happen so far, with everyone going out and about, reopening, traffic na naman. So people are going out and about. You're really seeing the recovery in the numbers. I should know because I'm a consumer, most especially of potato corner. Do you still have a buy rating on Security Bank? Yeah, actually, somebody's been asking me about Security Bank. The earnings are coming out for SecB, right? We talked about this last week. We felt that SecB was actually very undervalued, and so at 80 pesos, 83 pesos recently, we gave a buy on it. So now it's gone up to 86. Seems like it is recovering, just like the rest of the banks. And you will have more buyers. So yes, you do have a buy rating here. Let's see if the results have come out. Better results means that it can go higher, just like what happened to Metro Bank overall. Metro Bank, MBT and GT Cap, it took a while. So I've been telling people not to rush. You buy and then you wait. Kasi natulog pa nga yan. Ayun, tulog pa siya before it rose. So SecB is actually in the undervalued zone. So yes, we have a buy rating on SecB. So a lot of people ask me, Nikki, look at the index level. It's trading at 6667 and it is very high. And I was saying na I understand the index is very high. So I'm also not looking at the index, but looking at certain companies per se. So for instance, will I buy Monday at 16? I don't think so. Will I buy Cebu Pacific at 45 below, or 44, 42? And the answer is yes. So I think there is alpha in certain companies. Although coal prices worldwide have actually been rising, and we've seen how energy stocks worldwide as well as solar stocks worldwide have benefited from a ton of climate change bills being acted. So in USA, it's $370 billion, all into subsidizing solar panels, clean energy vehicles. In USA, if you buy like a hybrid plug-in vehicle, you'll get as much as a $4,000 discount. So there's a lot of opportunities in my view in climate change. It has yet to trickle in the Philippine market. We haven't seen a lot of these energy bills being passed, although we have seen President Marcos during his SONA highlight, he did talk about probably restoring more energy intensive power plants to basically make the Philippines self-sustaining if we could. So my guess is that we would provide, I would assume that the government may be planning better subsidies towards more energy projects such as solar, renewable, such as nuclear, which they mentioned. That would be a huge positive, obviously, towards whom? Aboitiz Power, SPNEG, ASEN, and ASLAG. Yeah, so it is a matter of time, I believe. And so we are bullish on certain companies. You and I know, we both mentioned how cheap what the company's pure gold at 30 pesos were. So even if it was like tanking to 28, 29, we were saying, well, the consumers will end up having to eat anyway. So it's a matter of time that the people who do grocery shopping would have to end up going into either a pure gold or an SM. And we argued pure gold at 10 times multiple is worth your money to be parked there. So I think like PLDT managed to go up, Globe managed to go up. We've discussed this a ton of times, but obviously August is a time of PLDT dividends. So nothing wrong, no? We've seen how growth stocks have been punished. For instance, you've seen Converge go down, you've seen Wilcon go down, and then go up because Wilcon made 1 billion pesos of profit in a quarter. I think if you've seen the Wilcon results, I myself was very impressed with the Bello family for basically being able to show that there is no sign of evidence of recession in our numbers. You can clearly see it in Wilcon's recent quarterly profits. And my view is that with the banks, if there is not a strong sign of weakness, no matter if inflation is very high, if the economy is trying to slowly travel, as you can see, I was bullish on the travel industry. We've been bullish on Airbnb, Booking, and Expedia abroad. And in the Philippines, yes, I think that Cebu Pacific and JJ Summit in general will benefit in this reopening trend. Um, so there are actually pockets of value that you may be able to still get. I'm not quite sure of the Ayala Corporation 720. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure of SM. SM has been going up, di ba? SM Prime. I'm not sure if it is cheap. Hindi yata yan cheap. So hindi ako sigurado on some names. BDO at 120 doesn't look cheap to me. Some banks are expensive. We've seen that they're expensive. So I don't want to pay a premium. I know coal stocks are doing well, but I don't want to pay a premium towards DMC or Semirara. So I would stay off on some of those names. However, we've seen a few names like nickel is 5.7. Worldwide, there is demand on EV, evidenced by Tesla's numbers and evidenced by Ford's numbers. So if you've got electric vehicles ramping up, you obviously need lithium nickel batteries. And so these lithium nickel companies, especially at its levels now, may present a good value for the people who wants to buy some Nicolasia here at 5.7. What are your thoughts on ASEN and Tech? ASEN, I think it's a little bit expensive if I will argue at 850 versus ASLAG's 180s. To me, the value play in solar in the Philippines still remains with ASLAG. You've got the company opening the Raslag 3 power plant. The company is already profitable. So it's just a matter of time when more and more people like the dividends and the stability that ASLAG presents. It doesn't mean that ASEN will go down. I just prefer the cheaper valuation. There are questions. Has your sentiment changed on REITs? Personally speaking, I don't have a fondness towards REITs. Bonds and REITs, in my view, are fixed coupon bonds. So fixed rates. There are several obvious bonds happening now. Meta, si Zuckerberg just issued a 2027 metaverse bond at about 3.5% in dollar. Meron pa siyang 4.5% as far as 2062, 40 years, at 4.5%, something like that. The reason why I am not fond of REITs is simply because I was never a fan of bonds and REITs. I'm an equity fundamentalist talaga, true-blooded equity player ako. So, Hindi ako talaga fond ng REITs. But if you like dividend players, I'll offer to you what I've been offering some awesome 10X members in USA. Take a look at marine shippers. We discussed last night Zim Shipping, ZIM. So this is our beneficiary of ocean freight rates. If you are an importer and exporter, you would know how expensive it is to ship a lot of goods, let's say bring from China to the Philippines. Used to pay, maybe you used to pay $1,600. Now it's about $6,000. So we can clearly see profits on the companies in the shipping sector. And I would prefer the top 10 company today, which is ZIM. I assume they will pay dividends as much as 10% this year. Thoughts on PSEI? Do you think it will still drop to 6,000? So a few weeks ago, I was actually focusing more on the fundamentals of certain companies rather than the index. To be fair, I think that index 67, 66 is high. So I wouldn't be paying a very high price in the index level. The S&P 500 today is trading at 4.2. I would think that the S&P 4.2 could go 4.3 or 4.4, but I'm not gonna be buying any large cap at the moment. The only companies that I would prefer would be limited towards travel sector. So for instance, if you like buying Cebu Pacific, my argument is it is a yes. Certain banks would be bought simply because of the dividends that they would continue to give. Recently, the utility firms like Meralco, PLDT, and Globe have been picked up for obvious reasons. You've got the dividends coming out this August, so why will it stay low? However, after this month ends and with the midterm elections ending on about November, start November yon, my guess is that starting October is when the markets will probably falter. So, na-delay itong ghost month. It's not happening this month because of the election season, midterm elections of Democrats in the Congress, in the USA. It will affect your market. Plus, you generally have better than expected earnings. So, you have to play this based on the recent numbers. If you've got a company with the banks reporting doing well and it's trading less than 1 times book value, like Metro Bank, Security Bank, you might as well do along there. However, will you still buy up some growth names like Wilcon at 31? I would guess probably profit take. Even if it goes 35 or 33 or 37, hayaan mo na yon. So my thoughts on PSEI is I think it will go sideways. Sideways because the market is gonna give a better than expected report on certain issues. But I wouldn't pay too expensively. An example of my view na baka it's getting ahead of itself, people are assuming inflation has peaked. What people haven't truly understood is that inflation can stay elevated. Inflation may have peaked, but inflation will stay elevated. Iba yun eh. Elevated means your oil prices will stay at $80, $90, $100. Hindi siya magto $200, but it will stay above. So, ano yung implication? With high oil prices still a hindrance towards many people, it will still affect consumer spending, but it will not be detrimental for the economy to recover. Why? Because a lot of people still want to go out. So nagkakaroon ka ng restaurants recovering. We've seen Shakey's Pizza, Potato Corner. My sense is that mura yon. I've been trying to calculate it. Actually, I want to make a valuation presentation perhaps on Shakey's Pizza. And from a common sense standpoint lang, guys, I think that the value is in the non-index names. Merong mura na hindi siya Jollibee. It is in the Shakey's Pizza. Mura ang Cebu Pacific in my view. Amongst index issues, I would probably be leaning on towards less on the property segment. So just because Ayala Land is rising or Ayala Corp is rising, I am not interested. I may be wrong, but Ayala Land did well because residential, okay, flat. Um, their their land sales were doing well. Um, I'm not somebody who's gonna buy SMSM Prime or Ali AC. So index issue is primarily led by the top five of the Philippines: SM, AC, Ali, SMPH, and BDO. That five I don't like. So hindi ako magiging buyer ng mga yon. Paano pala, Miss Nikki, yung oil reserves na paubos na sa USA to lower the prices for midterms? Expected ba na mag all-time high ang oil next year? Okay, good question. I studied this. US is gonna stop the strategic petroleum reserves by October. So talagang plinano ng Dems yan, Democrats, na mag-release ng 1 million barrels of oil per day. The Permian Basin that they have can only produce 5 million barrels per day. And they can only produce 10 million barrels per day in America. So at some point, because mawawala na yung 1 million extra na strategic petroleum reserves, you have to refill that. So automatic, malaki yung kikitain ng oil drillers. That's why they are bullish like Buffett is in mga Occidental Petroleum and even smaller players like Sandridge Energy, from big to small, no? So I'm happy. I like Devon Energy, EOG Resources, HES, FANG, which is Diamondback Energy. I do believe that buying $90 oil until 80 or 70 is a buying zone, and then sell it $100, 110 within the next 3 months or 6 months. So I wouldn't speculate that oil is gonna go high above 120, but I would argue it will stay $100. The $90 zone today is, in my view, a buying opportunity, just like last year's $60, $70 is also a buying opportunity that will not happen again. Hindi mo makukuhang ganun kababa. Kung makuha mo, swerte. Now, there's a question. Actually, this was asked of me. Sabi sa akin, if oil prices worldwide has never been, all of the oil and gas explorers and producers have been making so much money, they were asking why is it that the Philippines, Petron, and Shell weren't actually experiencing any positive movement? Now, I said, actually, ang Shell abroad nagbayad ng divs, malalaki. ExxonMobil nagbayad ng divs. Isa lang ang solusyon para ang Petron at Shell umangat. Alam mo na yon, dividend. If this company will pay dividends, mapapansin yan ng market. If they fail to do so, no matter what type of oil prices are, kahit anong sabi nilang profits, the market is in a show me the money. And that has happened. Energy stocks in USA did nothing but buy back shares, give dividends. Yun ang solusyon. Ang solusyon sa Philippine markets, for it to have volume, liquidity, is one thing alone. Give a dividend, the market will pay attention to you. So for any stock na mura, that's the solution. Give the dividend, like what happened to Nicolasia, nagbigay ng dividend. That's what happened to FNI, nagbigay ng dividend. Limpak-limpak yung kinikita ng commodities, nagbigay ng dividend si DMC and Semirara. What happened to the share prices? It followed suit. The only problem of companies in the mining sector that are not going up is you aren't giving dividends. So how am I supposed to believe if you are making money or not? That's it. Thank you very much, guys, and see you next week for another look in the Philippine markets. But I'm seeing that there's value plays in the Philippines that you might want to take a look at. Bye-bye.